Hey guys, I just thought I'd share with you the current iteration of my Darklord deck. This deck is my favorite go-to fun deck. It's a really strong road deck in my opinion as well. Pretty good for like local play, maybe like regionals if you side accordingly and have a bit of luck on your side. But yeah, artwork's absolutely gorgeous as well, which is part of why I love this deck so much. But let's just get into it. Mandatory 3 of, right off the bat, triple Darklord Ixchel. This card is the heart and soul of the deck. She's how you get your engine going. She's how you load your graveyard with combo extenders and how you set up disruption for your opponent's turn. She pitches herself plus another Darklord card to draw 2, so she's the Destiny draw. She thins your deck. She just does everything. Really thick booty as well, 2900. Really good card. Must play at 3 in any Darklord list. The next 3 of, mandatory 3 of in any Darklord list is triple Darklord Superbia. Superbia is the only way this deck has to really swarm the board and apply pressure to your opponent. So the strategy of Darklords is just fill your graveyard with huge fairies and then summon them all back and then just beat your opponent to death with them. It's not unlike Blue Eyes in that regard. But yeah, when Superbia special summoned from the graveyard, he targets another fairy in the grave and then special summons it as well, which is not inclusive to just Darklords, so you can summon cards like Arklord Christia with it, or in like older versions of this deck, it's how you do the Athena Superbia burn loop. It's a really good card. He's how you make all your extra deck plays, your link plays, your rank 8 spam. He can't target himself though. So if he could, that would just be really good. But you usually want to be making rank 8s with like him and Zerata, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, mandatory 3 ofs in any Darklord deck, triple Ixchel, triple Superbia. I don't think anyone would argue that fact. I opt to play the triple Nastin. I've seen some lists cut it to 2. I think you could get away with 2. I've done that in the past in other non-pure variants, but I like 3 for the most part. I've seen some lists cut this completely to 1. I just think that's incorrect. Absolutely. Nastin's too good not to play. Sometimes if you open subpar, he's the only way you have to apply pressure to the board and to just get a body on the field if you don't have a way to fill your graveyard and revive them. He's the Megalo for the deck, so he's the only Darklord monster that can special summon itself. He pitches 2 Darklord cards from the hand to summon himself. So if you open multiples, at worst case they're alert targets, and you can pitch an extra copy of Nastin to summon another copy. So yeah, I like triple Nastin. You could play 2, don't play 1, that's just incorrect. So yeah, that's 3 ofs. For the 2 ofs, I opt to play 2 Darklord Tezcatlipoca. You could play 1, I think most lists do. I just like having another alert target. And we are playing Desires, so I hate, my absolute biggest pet peeve with regards to Desires is just banishing 1 ofs off of it. So that's why I opt to play 2. He also has a pretty good pseudo hand trap effect for the archetype. He's like a Necros of Gungnir. If Darklord monsters you control would be destroyed with Battle or card effect, he just pitches himself out of the hand to protect them from destruction without activating and without starting a new chain link, so that's really good. So like a cool interaction is having like a board of Darklords and then having like banishment of the Darklords, which is your searcher in the graveyard. Let's say your opponent activates like Raigeki, you just chain a Darklord effect, copy the banishment from the graveyard, and then search out Tezcatlipoca, and then pitch it out of your hand to protect your entire board. So really cool interaction there. He's also a level 9, so you could play VFD in the extra deck if you wanted to, but I prefer just having his utility as a hand trap and his on-field effect as well. We do play double Zerato. As I mentioned before, Zerato plus Superbia is basically how you're going to be making your rank 8s in this deck, because Superbia can't special summon himself, as I mentioned earlier. It's a really good card, really good trade-in food, along with Superbia. On field, he's a Raigeki. You pitch a dark monster from your hand to just nuke your opponent's field, which is not a once per turn effect, by the way, so if for some reason you need to Raigeki your opponent multiple times, Zerato will do that for you. It's important to keep in mind, though, that if you do use that effect, he will destroy himself at the end phase of that turn. So it's important that you overlay with him or link him away so you don't neg yourself. So yeah, 2 Zerato. Last 2 of we play is double Darklord Ukobak. I cannot for the life of me understand why some people say this card is bad or opt not to play it. In my opinion, Ukobak fixes so many of the issues this deck had with consistency. It's a Beatrice on summon for any Darklord card, so it lets you resource any card you need in your deck straight to the graveyard to copy, or to just fill it. Well, this is how you get Superbia to your graveyard if you don't have a way to get it to the graveyard. The precision milling that Ukobak brings is just too good to pass up. I've seen some, and this deck doesn't have a normal summon. Like, Ukobak is the only normal summonable Darklord monster, at least without tributing. So why would you not play it? I know some lists commit the normal summon to like Vanity's Fiend or to like Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. You could do that, I guess, but like, I don't know. A +1 isn't that important to me, especially because it's like a blind +1. You're just hoping to draw, and I'd rather like extend my play and like mill like exactly what I need instead of just sit on like a Vanity's Fiend and like hope my opponent can't out it. I was playing 3 for a really long time. I cut it to 2 just for this list, but I highly encourage you to at least try this card out if you are not playing it in your Darklord list. Just for the 1-ofs, just the one Amdusk. Amdusk is he's alright. He's a recycler mid to late game. He pitches himself out of the hand along with another Darklord card to target another Darklord card in your graveyard and add that card back to your hand. So you do neg in hand advantage, but it's good to get back some resources or to like tie combos together. Actually, if you open up Subpar and you open up Ukobak and Amdusk together, you can like summon Ukobak, dump a banishment to the graveyard, use Amdusk to get it back to your hand, and then use it that way. So that's a cool little combo if you open up poorly. Yep, that's all the Darklord monsters. For the non-Darklord monsters, we still play 1 copy of Arklord Christia. In like pure builds or in like more fun builds, I know people like this at 2. I was playing 2 for a while. I just cut it to 1 for this list. This list is 41 cards. Christia is definitely the 41st card, so you could just cut this completely if you wanted to. I decided to keep it in just to keep Trade-in a little bit more live and just to keep the fun theme of the deck still there. Because I did try to gear this deck to be a bit more competitive, and just really sacky to drop a Christia on your opponent off of Saryuja. So still don't have Christia. And then for hand traps, we just play the Gammas, Siphon Gear Gamma. Really, really good card. I think Darklords can take advantage of this card really well with all the drawing and the search power they have, with like 3 banishment, the Ixchels, and then, all this draw power. Resolving a Gamma against your opponent on your turn is just too good to pass up. You're probably going to win the game if Gamma goes through successfully, because your opponent just loses 2 cards out of their hand, because Omega will take 1 as well. Hand traps really do hurt this deck, especially Ash and Droll. Ghost Ogre not so much, but Ash and Droll, which are the 3 most prevalent at the time of making this video. Yeah, this is really good against those. I will say though that running the Gamma package dilutes the consistency just a tad, and it makes Allure of Darkness less live, which is why I've opted to just cut it to 2 for this list. Drawing Driver as well. It's having to introduce a Garnet to the deck when this deck already has a tendency to brick. Kind of sucks as well, but I think this is just too powerful to pass up. It's been working out really well in testing. That's it for the monsters. On to the spells and traps. For the Darklord spells, mandatory 3 banishment of the Darklords. This is your archetype Stratos Rhoda. It searches anything you want in your deck. So you gotta maximize it playing at 3 because you want to see this as quickly as possible. I will say that all the Darklord spell and traps are hard once per turns, but the copying effect of all the new Darklords, that is Ixchel, Nasten, Tezcatlipoca, and Amdusk, are a really cool concept to help circumnavigate that issue and resolve double searches, double special summons, double pops, double negates. That's really cool. I love that concept. Next, 3 of Triple Darklord Contact. This is the Archetype Monster Reborn. It does not target the monster in their graveyard, which is another really cool fact. It special summons it in defense position, which kind of sucks, but if you could special summon just like a huge fairy from your graveyard and attack, that'd be a bit too powerful, I have to admit. So you usually want to be summoning Superbia off of Contact, because Superbia will just net you another free special summon off its effect. Speaking of Superbia and Contact, it's really important to keep in mind that if you copy Darklord Contact with, like, let's say an Ixchel, and you attempt to special summon Superbia back off of the copied Contact effect, Superbia will actually miss timing, because unfortunately, Superbia is an older card, and it's got this stupid when in its clause instead of if, and since the last thing that happens is the Contact being shuffled back into your deck, Superbia will miss timing and it won't be able to special summon another fairy from your deck. So that sucks. Yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. You got to deal with that as well. So onto the draw power. I've opted just like 2 of each: 2 Desires, 2 Trade-in, 2 Allure. I already mentioned before, the reason we've cut Allure to 2 is because we're playing the Gammas, and Triple Desires is just too much. I've never been a fan of that unless you're playing like 60. And something that's not very standard is double Trade-in. I was playing 3 for a really long time, and I think all lists basically just play 3 of both of these. But my theory on only 2 Trade-in in this specific list is that unlike Allure and Desires, Trade-in is not live on its own. You need a Trade-in target, and while yes, we are running 6 targets for Trade-in, you're not always going to draw Trade-in along with a level 8. And I know in a lot of deck profiles, people like slap 3 Trade-in down on the table and they're like, oh, this card's never dead, it's always going to be live because you run so many 8s. Well, yeah, that might be true like 60-70% of the time. There are gonna be those hands where you draw Trade-in and nothing else, and Trade-in will just be a blank at that point. And while yes, you can search a Trade-in target off of banishment, I don't want to commit my search off of banishment to just making Trade-in live. I want to be searching like a Contact to special summon something, or something else to extend my plays, or a trap to disrupt my opponent. I don't want to just make Trade-in live. So that's my thoughts on Trade-in at 2. This might go back to 3 in the future if I miss it, but for now I've been loving it at 2. It's not as dead, not as often. Other spells, double Called by the Grave. As I said earlier, this deck absolutely gets wrecked by Droll and Ash, so we want to stop those hand traps from going through as much as possible. Another thing you could do is to just cut the Christia for the 3rd Called by the Grave, but that might be a bit too much. You might brick a bit more, and Trade-in would just suffer as well. So the 2 has been just fine in testing. It might go to 3 in the future. Who knows? We'll see. More generic revival cards, Monster Reborn and Sack Charge. That's what this deck revolves around, special summoning from the graveyard, so you'd be a fool not to play these cards. For the traps are the reason I think this deck can still remain somewhat viable. The Darklord traps are all insanely powerful. They don't target, which is absolutely just insane. So we'll start with 2 Sanctified Darklord. This is the new support from Flames of Destruction that just came out. It really bothers me that this card's just a rare and not like a secret, but I'll take what we can get, especially considering this card is actually really good. So this card is a non-targeting effect veiler for the archetype, and additionally, you gain life points equal to the attack of the monster whose effect you've negated, which is really, really good in this deck because you have to pay 1,000 life points as cost to use the Darklord effects to copy the spells and traps from the graveyard. And that kind of starts to add up over time, and especially with the new time rules. Paying life points isn't that great, and gaining life points back is just absolutely insane. You can turn off your Christia with this card and gain 2,800 life points. That's really good. If you're in a pinch, you can negate your own Darklord monsters, and since they're all huge beaters, you just gain that many life points back. Really good card. This could go to 1, maybe, but I like 2 for now. And then the absolute best trap card in the deck is Darklord Rebellion. This is a non-targeting Raigeki break. Really, really good. If you have either one of these in the graveyard with another one set on your side of the field, your opponent's going to have a really tough time breaking through that board because that's just so much disruption you have at your disposal, especially with the ability to copy their effects with your Darklord monsters. Not playing Enchantment in this list. I don't think Enchantment's that great. I think it's just a side deck card at best right now, but yeah. So that's the main deck. On to the extra deck. The extra deck's really free. You hardly ever resource the extra deck in Darklords, but you just play a bunch of rank 8s. So the first one is, of course, going to be number 38, Hope Harbinger, Dragon Titanic Galaxy. This is really good going first game 1 and just eat spells. I think this is actually one of the few mandatory cards you have to play in the extra deck. Yeah, so that's it. We play 1 Felgrand, 1 Lancelot, and 1 Zombie Stein. Lancelot's good because, again, the time rolls is just 2,000 damage straight to the face and you pop a card. Felgrand's Felgrand. Zombie Stein's actually really good. I've started making him a lot more often, games 2 and 3, because he negates evenly matched and he's just 4,500 body. Some more rank gates. Galaxy Package, and Cypher Dragon, Full Armor Photon, and Cypher Blade. This package just breaks boards wide open going second. Really, really good. And then for the last XCs, we play 1 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, because, once again, new time rules. You make it with the 2 X-Shells, and you just detach 1 XC's material to just nuke your opponent for 2k. You could cut the Felgrand for Super Doro, but rank 8s are just so much easier to make in this deck than 10s, because X-Shell's the only 10 you run, so I keep Felgrand. And then for the links, we do play Nightmares, Phoenix, Cerberus, Unicorn. These are just utility. They hardly ever come up except for maybe Unicorn. Cerberus actually isn't that great because it's just worse than Darklord Rebellion, because Rebellion isn't limited to popping special summon monsters in the main monster zone. So you could just cut these if you wanted. Underclock Taker, because it's a generic link 2 that points down, and the effect to reduce attack also comes up a lot to punch your opponent in the face for game. Rank 4s are just Saryuja and Borreload. Saryuja's just insane. I've considered just cutting something just to play 2 Saryuja, but I think that's just a bit too greedy. But yeah, Saryuja just absolutely insane. You get free special summons from your hand, and you draw a bunch of cards. And then Borreload's Borreload going second. It's really good. And then we play 1 Cyframe Lord Omega for the Gammas, and the 1 Flying Fish. So extra deck's really free. You can play what you want. I'd say like the only cards you like have to play are like Hope Harbinger, maybe the Galaxy Suite, and then like maybe Saryuja. But yeah, you have a lot of options. So that's the list. The current iteration, 41 cards. Feel free to comment, make more suggestions, critique, give advice. Any other veteran Darklord players, I'd love to hear your opinions. And yeah, thanks for watching.